Hi, and welcome to my podcast, What's the Value of Addiction? My name is Brendon Watt. I'm an alcoholic and an addict, and I've been sober since April 2022. On this podcast, I will share my journey and the tools I've used to create a life that is not perfect, but a lot kinder and truer for me. I hope it can be a contribution to you so that you know that no matter where you are on this journey, something truly different is possible. Hey everyone, welcome to the first ever episode of What's the Value of Addiction? My name is Brendon Watt. I will be your host. I am an alcoholic and an addict, and sober now for almost 3 years as this episode airs, since April 2022. And it's interesting saying those words because in the beginning, it was not easy. And I always saw it as something that would define me. Oh, now I'm just an alcoholic. Now I'm just an addict. And I had so much judgment of it. I remember it was quite a journey before I actually made the choice to get sober. I was having a conversation with Gary Douglas, the founder of Access Consciousness, and I will be using a lot of those tools and having a lot of different guests on throughout these coming episodes, using a lot of these Access Consciousness tools. And I was having a conversation with him, and I really didn't want to look at the fact that I had a problem. And not only a problem, I had something that I'd made so much bigger than me, and something that was literally killing me, killing my body, and killing my life. And so in one of these conversations, we started talking about the idea of being an alcoholic, and I was just like, I did not want to hear it at all. And one of the things that I got to was I grew up around a lot of that. And alcoholic for me, my judgment of it was an alcoholic was somebody who was violent, somebody who was abusive, somebody who was really mean and had no consideration for anyone else. And that was something I did not want to become. And so in this conversation, one of the things that he started asking me was, okay, so what does it mean to you to be an alcoholic? And so I would go through all of these different layers of things that came up. And eventually what it got to was, it was just a weakness. What I'd like to get to and hopefully gift to you some of is, it began as such a weakness in my world, and it was really not an easy thing to look at. And anyone who is either going on this journey of sobriety or is on this journey of sobriety will recognize it's not an easy thing to do, but man, has it been awesome, and I've learned so much from it. So what I want to get to from that is what began as a weakness turned into one of my greatest strengths. And this thing of bringing up, I'm an alcoholic and an addict. I remember so like I said, this has been a long journey, and it took many years for me to get to this point of going, you know what, I need to change this. But I remember in the beginning, I went to a couple of Alcoholics Anonymous meetings before I actually stopped. I spent probably around 3 years, two and a half to 3 years, doing everything that I thought I could to make it work, to be able to stay using alcohol as this backdoor for me, because that's what it always was. It was whenever anything would get too uncomfortable, whenever anything would come up that I needed something else to cope with it, I needed some escape from it. Alcohol was there. It was my friend. It was my enemy at the same time. And so in this journey with that, like I would try, okay, well, I'm just going to drink on the weekends, or I'm only going to drink wine, or I'm only going to drink beer, and I'm only going to, I'll do cleanses. That was a good one for me. I'm going to do cleanses because if I appear as if my body is getting healthier, then this is not a problem. So let me say one thing about that. One of the things that I heard early on in an Alcoholics Anonymous meeting was they said, hated it when they said this, but they said, how do you know when an alcoholic is lying? How? When their mouth is open. And I was like, that's not true. It's like, I don't lie. And I did everything I could to try and avoid the fact that I had become everything that I was avoiding being. So that was an interesting thing to begin to get. And so many interesting things. But so in some of over these years, I would hide away in my house drinking. I would not talk to anyone about it. I would lie to myself, lie to others. I would do all of these things. And I'd really become something that I no longer liked and I no longer recognized. And that for me, and I know for whether it's with addiction or whether it's with any of these things that you make bigger than you in your life, alcohol was something that was definitely bigger than me. And, so I started appearing as if I desired to change it while still not really desiring to change it. And, I remember a couple of the Alcoholics Anonymous meetings that I went to, I would have a few beers before I went to them. I'm just going to have a few beers just to calm my nerves and go to these things and appear as if I desired to change. And here's the thing is I actually did. I actually really desired to change it. I just didn't think I could. And I remember when I found out that with alcoholism as one of the parts of this, the only way to beat it, the only way to actually create beyond it is to have complete abstinence from it, no more. And I was like, the thought of having no alcohol in my life at all, nowhere to run to, terrified me. And I would show up at these meetings, and for uh, for a lot of them, like I would see these different people sharing their stories and different things, and I was just like, man, I really want to change this, but I don't think I'm ever going to get through it. So uh, I want to get to a few of the things that allowed me to begin to get through it. And I want to say this also. I was having a conversation again with Gary Douglas just a few days ago, and I was talking about how one of the things that I did early on in my sobriety was I just wanted it to be done. Can I just be sober now? Can I be recovered? Can we all forget about this? Can we all just think I'm a nice guy again and just forget all of this ever happened? Can we all just can this just go away? And unfortunately, that resistance to it and that avoiding of it was not helpful. And one of the things he said that I thought was really cool, well, two things. There was a conversation years ago early on, where he said to me, look, what if it wasn't about getting healed from this? What if it was about letting your life be an ongoing healing? So with whatever you've had going on in your life, whether it's been abuse, whether it's stuff with addiction, alcoholism, whether it's just any of those things that you kind of carry throughout your life that are the binding elements of the story that you live from, what if first of all it's not wrong? But what if secondly, what if there's strength in it? If you're willing to not be the victim of it, but empower yourself to actually use it as a strength to go beyond it. So in this, with him saying that, I was like, oh man, that helps me relax. But you mean I don't actually have to get to some finish line with this? What if you didn't have to get to a finish line with any of this, but you actually allowed yourself to be present with all of it? So another thing that he said that I thought was so great, he said, well, the thing with recovering is if you look at that word, it's about to recover. You have to go back to it. You're waiting to go back to it. And I know for me, again, one of the things that I, did a lot with, I was really good at, let me keep what I've decided is bigger than me outside of me, because if it's outside of me, then I can avoid it. I don't have to look at it. I don't have to be present with it. But what I realized was it was the being present with it that allowed me to actually choose something different. So with this part of the healing and the recovering part, and trying to just get it all done so that I could just get on with my life, what I started doing was I started going, oh, okay, what's the gift in this? What's the gift in all of this that I'm not acknowledging? Now, like, what's the value of addiction? You might hear that and be like, what? How could there be a value? How could there be a value of this? My life is ruined, or I'm really struggling with it, or I hate myself with regards to this, or I just hate myself for this. How could there be a gift in it, or how could there be a value in it? Well, what if there's a value in you? What if there's a value in you and there's nothing wrong with what you've chosen, but what you've chosen just doesn't work for you anymore? See, one of the things that I've had to learn is forgiveness for myself. That has not been an easy journey. And I tell you, with that, couple of things is, one of the things I did was I started writing this list out of, I mentioned that I didn't like myself at all. I was so ashamed of just me. And I don't even necessarily mean just the choices that I'd made, just this sense of not liking who I had become. And so I started writing this list, and I did a lot of writing. Can I just say I did a lot of writing early on in my sobriety, and one of the things I did was I wrote this list of what are the elements of who I would like to become. First, on top of that list was to live from integrity. I actually had to look up the word because I'd heard it and I was like, integrity. Yeah, I'd like to have integrity for myself and for others. I'd like to show up in the world like that. And looking up the definition of it, being in integrity with yourself, being honest with yourself, choosing what's actually true for you. And so when I put that on the list, I recognized in order to get there, I was going to have to start choosing from that space. And here's a really cool tool with this. If there's something that you would like to become, let's say that you would like to have a lot more kindness in your life. You would like to be a lot kinder to yourself and others. You would like to have a lot less judgment of yourself and others. You would like to have more joy, more lightness in your life. And you might be in a spot where you're like, how the hell is that even a possibility right now? Hey, I get that. You're gonna hear some good stuff throughout this podcast, because there was many, 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 many months of this journey and many times throughout my life where I desperately desired to quit. But have you ever had that, desperately desired to quit, but had that nagging sense in your world where you're like, I know I came here to be something different. What's it going to take for me to have the courage to be it? And anyway, so what I wanted to get to with this is, if you get a sense of that, even if you're stuck in the biggest pile of shit right now, if you get a sense of what it would be like to have more kindness, what it would be like to have less judgment, what it would be like to just have far more lightness and liking yourself, like what it would even be like to wake up once and go, oh my goodness, I like who I am. What choices would I have to make today to begin that journey? What if I chose from that space? So if you get a sense of the person that you would like to become, who you would like to be in this world, notice when you make choices that don't match that energy. They're not the choices that are going to get you there. And I want to say about this that, oh man, like I said, man, did I want to make the one, where's the one big choice that I can make? Where is that one big choice that I can make that will set me free in this? I didn't find it. I still haven't found it, but it was every little choice. And it was every little choice. And I want to put something to that also, because a lot of us, you look at the topic of choice and you would go like, you kind of get it to the degree that you get it, but a lot of us really don't get what choice actually is. Choice is the moment by moment creation of our lives, not just the cognitive choices that we make, but all of the energy in the background creating it, all of the energetics that you have creating the structures of your life. Like, have you ever had anything in your life that you really desired to change? Addiction, alcoholism, stuff with relationships, stuff with money, stuff with, the way you see yourself, the way you see the world, the way you think you're seen in the world, just anything. Have you ever had any of those things and just wondered why you couldn't seem to get to something different with them? Well, a really cool awareness and beginning of a different possibility with this is your point of view creates your reality. Like, I had the point of view, I'm never going to change this. This is never going to change. And that point of view alone kept me from changing it. This is more powerful than me. I'm never going to beat this. That point of view alone kept it being more powerful than me and me never going to beat it. And so if you begin to get that, there's a lot of points of view that we pick up and that we buy as ours, or we resist and react to and try and get away from, that kind of create pretty much the same thing, begin to create the reality that we live from. A lot of those points of view we don't even recognize that we have. So a big part of this journey, I know for myself, and has been getting to allowance. So I talked about forgiveness and, being able, I brought it up. I don't know if I really talked about it, but getting to allowance is a huge gift in this. How do you get to allowance of something that you see as a wrongness in you? And what do I mean by allowance? Well, allowance is everything is what it is, and you don't have this necessity for it to be anything different. You don't have to see yourself as being in control of the environment around you. You allow the environment around you to be what it is, not expecting it to be something different, where everything is just an interesting point of view. It doesn't have to, it doesn't have to swallow you up. You don't have to align and agree with it or resist and react to it. Even with yourself, you don't have to see yourself as a wrongness and then go, oh, that must be true because here's everything I've ever chose that validates it. You get to go, okay, wait a minute. Interesting point of view. I have this point of view that I'm a wrongness. And one of the, again, it's an interesting journey coming out of wrongness. So what if you could ask for that? You know what? I am gonna stop judging myself. I'm gonna begin now stopping this judgment, this continuous cycle of judgment of me. I'm gonna start something different. And here's what I do, and here's what I had to learn dynamically to do was your mind's not gonna figure out how to get to that. Okay. That one, this is a very helpful piece of information that I'm still getting, okay, is your mind cannot extrapolate beyond the boundaries of its limitations, okay? Your mind cannot extrapolate possibilities, basically. So what if you could begin to allow yourself to open up to receiving a different possibility? Let me say something on that. Did I have it's interesting talking about this because I kind of get these, I kind of energetically get a sense of myself, 2.5, 3 years ago, and some of the days that I had were hell. And I mean, anxiety, panic, this desperate need to be saved, this wanting to quit, suicidal thoughts, depression of magnitude. And some days, all I could do was ask the universe to help me. Universe, I have no idea. Universe, consciousness, I have no idea what to choose right now. I need some help. I really need some help. And I had to learn to ask for help beyond people. Because I don't know about you, but for me, when I'd asked for help, when I've asked for help from people throughout my life, it always came with this, can you help me? And what I mean by that, my subtext with that is, can you save me? Can you come and take me out of this so I don't have to make the choices to see how powerful I am, to see how amazing I might be, to actually see how free I can be and how much of a contribution I could be? Do you ever do that? Well, what if there's a different choice? So in this, I would have days where so let me say this. We have a mantra in Access Consciousness. It is all of life comes to me with ease and joy and glory. And it was the first tool I ever got. And the girl was like, you say it 10 times in the morning and 10 times at night, and your whole life will start to change. And I was just like, okay, and I would say this mantra thousands of times throughout the day, not knowing how I was going to get to something different, but always, as if by magic, getting to something different. And there was so many little choices like that along the journey. So what I want to say with that is, what if anything that you've got going on in your life right now that you would like to change, what if it's not what you think is going to change it that changes it? What I mean by that, what if you were willing to allow the universe in, begin to allow yourself to receive and ask for a different possibility? What else is possible with this that I have never considered? What else is possible for me that I've never considered? What have I decided is unchangeable about all of this that is actually changeable? What would kindness for myself be through this? And I tell you, one of the hardest choices to make when you see yourself as the biggest piece of shit in the world is to have kindness for you. And I'm still learning that one. I'm definitely still learning that one. Very grateful that I don't see myself as the biggest piece of shit in the world, but I am still working on the kindness thing. That is definitely a journey. Now I want to do every single episode of this podcast right now because I got 8,000 things to say. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to end this conversation now. I hope this was a contribution. Like I said, we're going to have lots of interesting conversations and different things come up. I thank you for being here. And please know, if you desire something different with this, you can get there. Okay. What else is possible you have never considered? Until next time, thank you for being here. Bye. Thank you so much for listening. I am grateful for your presence. If you enjoyed this podcast, make sure to subscribe and share it with a friend that might benefit from these conversations. For more resources, check out my website, brendonwatt.com, and what else is possible you have never considered.